Hello, people. How you doing today? I'm with my partner, James Proctor. This is the Lead Coal 3 podcast. James, how you doing?
Hey Lee, doing well. How are you?
Pretty good. We decided we're going to have kind of an interesting show, I think, today. As you know, the people here, there's a lot of frauds. There's a
hmm
lot of informants in the mob genre. So I would say 90%, 95% of the numbers coming in is through mob informants. Would you say that?
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, I would say that would be informants.
And right now, what do you say is the fastest growing shows out of these people in here?
Yeah, I would say, obviously we have the Mikey Scars. That show has really went up the last several months. I know now they've got what is it, a Patreon, so that might halt some of the growth on YouTube, but then
Yeah,
uh,
well, yeah. He put a show down last night, and it was
mhm,
and it got really good numbers, and it was and he did it already. It was done in his Patreon, and he put it up a few
mhm.
days later, and we talked about it before the show.
Right, right. Yeah, that was with, and so Dominic Cicale would be the other one, and when you look at his growth, it's really just continuing to grow. He's growing probably faster than any of them, maybe up there
He
with
has the best growth.
Sammy.
If you look at his over the last couple months, it
hmm
seems like he has the best growth out of the new shows coming in. Would you say that?
Yeah, I would say that he has a seems like he's got a production group around him or people that's on his team, and so it does seem pretty professional. His
That's what it is.
shows.
It's very
hmm
professional. The stories are very solid, and
Right, and stuff we didn't really hear before as well because of the that post Gotti era. A lot of information we don't haven't heard a lot from.
so we're going to talk about out of these guys coming in here. Okay, we know that some of them were real. We're going to talk about them a little bit. Okay, so first we're going to talk about basically how we're going to label these guys. We're going to label them frauds.
hmm
Are we going to label them the real thing, or maybe in between, like a part of a fraud? But we're going to start with Sammy Gravano. Now we
Yeah,
okay, so we know that Sammy was the real deal. I mean, he was walking next to John Gotti for at least a year, right?
yeah.
So explain to us who Sammy was.
Yeah, I mean he was in the life from the early 70s, from like 1970. He started off as a Colombo associate, then he got in some issues with I believe Shorty Sparrow and those folks, and he ended up going into Tato's crew with the Gambino family, and eventually gets on the hit that took out Castellano, or the what I would say is that he was part of the planning of it. Some of the other pieces of that story might is suspect, and but he did become the consigliere and underboss of the Gambino family, and then he testified against John Gotti. So we know all that to be true, and he wrote a
And then
book and all
and
that.
he wrote the book, and but
hmm
then he came onto YouTube, and
Yeah,
Sammy Gravano does not have to lie. He could tell his story. It's a very interesting story.
yeah,
But
exactly.
the fact of the matter is, he's been caught and lie against over and over again about and basically making himself a lot bigger than what he was, and he doesn't even have to do that, but he chooses to do that.
Yeah,
From
exactly.
you know,
I mean,
you know,
yeah, in my opinion, uh, when we look at it, he's lying. He's becoming more and more a fraud each week when he does his lives. And so it seemed like his first year on YouTube was kind of matched what was in his book Underboss, and then since then he's felt this need to, what I say is, embellish. He wants to change history, and then he looks at each episode that he looks at every show that he does as an episode where it's like a Hollywood production, and he has to be the hero.
and he puts on his Sammy cape, runs
hmm
out with his Sammy suit on, and stops
Yeah.
traffic and leaps tall buildings in a single bound.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
so, do you think? So with Sammy, do you think we could really call him a fraud, being that he was the real thing? I mean, how would you label Sammy in this?
Yeah.
genre?
So right. So what I would say is that when we look at these folks, we have frauds, we have people that were the real deal, and then we have people that were a mix of fraudulent and real. And so I'd put him in that last category. He's got definitely a lot of truth about him, a real deal, but then there's a lot of made up stories. So you have to put him in that mix of lies and reality.
Is he making the stories up, or is he embellishing the stories?
Yeah, embellishing for the most part. I mean, some things might actually be a total lie, like saying that he was there in the traffic with John Gotti at his.
And John Gotti was his driver.
Right, and that might be a total lie. But most of the stuff is that there's some elements of the story that's true, but he's went in there and rewrote the script.
He did, and even the government bought his story on rewriting the script. They just believed what he said.
Yeah, exactly, because they knew that he was smart enough to know, or maybe someone told him, his handlers, that the government, what they wanted was they wanted John Gotti, and the big thing they wanted to tie him to was the Paul Castellano hit. So that was what he did.
And so we would list in this genre Sammy's number 2. There's no doubt about that. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. A number of subs and views and all that. Yeah.
Okay. So the next guy so we're gonna say Sammy embellishes his stories.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt about his importance on the street. He embellishes his story, and he's 100% an informant. Is that the best way to describe him?
Yes, it is.
So his score basically to us would be the real deal that loves to embellish.
Yeah.
Okay. Next guy. This guy right here, Michael Franzese. A lot of people would say, why do you have Michael Franzese up there?
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, we do know that Michael Franzese gave evidence, not more than, and anybody that researches it knows it was more than one time.
Right.
And there's even pretty much evidence that he actually did someone, people in prison, even though he will say he did it.
Yeah, and I have some thoughts on him, and so I would say 90% of his story is true, maybe even a little more than that. But what you have to do with Michael, he's very shrewd with his words, so you have to listen to every single word carefully, because he's very technical with how he approaches when he speaks. And so, case in point, he says that he never testified against someone that caused a person to go to prison. And
yes, and we know that's not true. And that,
right.
Guys also went to prison when he testified, and they used some of his evidence during the boxing when he testified before Congress about boxing.
Yeah, exactly. And then wasn't there a driver or something, maybe of his father or something, that actually went to prison.
Yeah,
but it was like, oh well, this guy wasn't a made guy, or he wasn't part of or something. So he's always got a little wiggle room to get out of it. But the reality is that some of that is definitely at least breaking the spirit of being truthful.
In general, he's very well respected in this genre.
He is.
He has his church thing going on. Only he knows whether it's the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
I did a show a while back that showed he has some issues in his life, but that's not accurate with what he's saying. But you know what? In general, I would rate him above Sammy Gravano for sure.
Oh yeah, most definitely, and he's definitely believe that he's a good businessman, all that stuff. So and all of that's true with his business stuff. So yeah, I mean, for the most part, I would say he's I
would say he's 95% real deal.
Yeah.
And about 5% BS. Would you say that?
Yeah, that's a good. I think that's what I would
say. And that's pretty good in this genre. When you think about it.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, now the next guy I'm going to bring up, he's kind of taken this. Thing by storm when he came in here, and we were lucky enough to have a rap song made about us.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people say a lot of things about him, but I'm going to bring him up right now. Dominic
Cicale.
Now, Dominic Cicale, we know that he was definitely with Vinny.
Yes.
Vinny Gorgeous. Would you say that?
Yeah, definitely. No, there's it's totally undisputed.
We know that he was very close to Vinny. We know that Vinny trusted him. We knew a lot of people in the street didn't trust Dominic Cicale.
Right.
So I don't find him embellishing his stories. The things that bother me the most about him is that he attacks the people that he put in prison. But once you take that away, I don't find him embellishing his stories. Do you?
No, I don't. In fact, I really liked I actually learned something new, that was to me, and this isn't about saying, no, I'm not on the informant thing, pro or con. Let's talk about content. So it was saying he did on Bruno and Delicato, and I really thought that was a great story that was true. It is true, but it was something that wasn't widely known. And so, he's bringing out information that is interesting to me that we haven't heard before. And then like the money what happened to the money from the Lufthansa heist with Jimmy Burke, and, cause he knew Jimmy Burke's daughter. And so daughters, she has two. So anyway, I would say at least since he's been on YouTube that, just about everything's been, straight on.
Right.
You may not agree with him or whatever, but I'd say it's straight on.
So you know what? Here's how I'm going to put Michael Franzese first. I'll put Sammy second, and I would put Dominic Cicale fourth right now in quality of product. But I would put him more truthful than Sammy Gravano. Sammy Gravano's on this list because he has almost 600,000 people. You can't take that away from him.
Right.
But now I'm going to talk to the guy who I think is number 3 here. And I think this gentleman is after Sammy, but I think his importance, and this is going to be Mikey Scars, and his importance to the genre is this. He has been the only one that has the ability to come on here and call Sammy Gravano out because he was with Sammy. Sammy even made him. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, that's 100% accurate.
And what is your opinion on his battle with Sammy? Do you think he's been damaging Sammy?
Yeah, he's definitely been damaging Sammy. It's not, what does that damage look like? What we're seeing is that history is showing that Sammy has lied. As far as Sammy losing viewers, I don't believe it's affecting him too much because I believe people that are younger that weren't around 30 years ago, they look at Sammy and think that he's just cool as hell. And he's just this, this mobster with this just unbelievable.
They make him sound like he's a cool 80-year-old man, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And so a lot of younger people it doesn't matter to them that he informed, but they don't understand the history. And so when you look at what Mikey's doing, he's actually putting history in its right spot. And yeah, he was an informant. We know that. But as far as
matter of fact,
being honest,
and the reality is that he was one of the biggest informants. Well, maybe the biggest informant ever.
Yeah, about 80 people that are attributed to him.
But the reality, and then the name of his show now is No Excuses, and he pretty much does keep it at no. People they're chasing, I would say. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah. That's accurate, and so for me, I'm looking at more from what he's doing, putting history in its right place. Disputing. Unfortunately, Sammy was pretty much able to have no one to question what he was saying, and so we were going to have history being rewritten by Sammy, and that's not good. So at least we're now able to get someone to counter what Sammy is saying with Mikey Scars.
And that we really haven't seen any type of lies coming from Mikey Scars, have we?
None that I know of. No.
You know, I'm sure they all lie, minor
Yeah.
lies, major lies, who the hell knows?
Hmm.
But in reality, I would say out of everybody that's come out, he's probably the straight shooter of the bunch. Would you say that?
Yeah, I would say that.
And I think that's why he's damaging Sammy, because Sammy kept saying that he's not going to say nothing, and now Sammy's talking. I mean, he's
Yeah.
not, you know, he's ready to go at. You could just tell he's getting ready to go at Mikey.
Yeah, and I just feel Mikey's credible with what he's saying.
Okay, so we'll say that Mikey's definitely not a fraud.
You know.
He's the real deal, and his
Mhm.
stories have been solid.
Yeah.
That's how we'll pretty much keep Mikey. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, now we get that. Okay, so these four guys that we just named, we named Sammy, we named Michael, Franzese, Mikey Scars, and Dominic Cicale. I'm going to put those four, like they're in the upper level. That's how I look at it this time. The growth of their shows, the product they're putting out, and they are all informants. And two of them are very big informants, and that's. But now we're going to move on, and this is like the second level.
Yeah, and they were all made, and all four of these were actually made guys in the Cosa Nostra.
Right, they were definitely made guys. Now I'm going to put up the next guy that's at the top of the next list, the second level list would be John Panisi. And now give us a rundown on John Panisi.
Yeah, so John Panisi, he's another one that's an informant. He was in prison for several, for over 10 years, and he was
no, more like 8
yes, like 16, 18 years. Yeah, he was in there a long time, and so he was an associate with the Lucchese family, and then was, I guess, said he was made in 2012 or so. And he had a pretty short run on the street, and then and then he ended up
walking into the police station basically, and a lot of people say
he wasn't even on the radar of the authorities. He goes in and was scared that that the family thought he was a rat or whatever and wanted to take him out, and so he ran to the FBI.
And what's hard to believe about that? At that time, there wasn't many people taking out anybody at that point.
No, not at all. That wasn't happening.
Okay, so you would say pretty much that. Do you think that he embellishes his stories?
Yeah, I believe he embellishes his stories. I know we talked about the guy that that owned a business that he did some work with, and and it was a disaster. Basically, he was saying one story, and then the other guy, that the businessman was saying another, and so, as you see those examples where people will listen to Panisi and then say, yeah, this isn't accurate, and so I've noticed that more and more that people counter and disagree with what he's saying and saying it's not true.
And we know that he tries. He's kind of like Sammy Gravano, where he tries to put himself in everything. Example, like he went to John Gotti Jr. when John Gotti was at the gym with his son. And I personally, I don't think that would be a smart move. And then he said that John Gotti Jr. came outside and he had to watch him because he knew John Gotti Jr. had a Dillinger or something. I don't know. The story was kind of ridiculous. He does. Yeah. And when he does his stories, you could tell he's embellishing quite a few of them. Yeah. And I would say that 50% maybe.
Yeah.
Part was he made? I think that it's obvious that he was. Did he have to become an informant? I don't think he did. Do you?
No, it just seems like and that's the other thing. That was my biggest problem with him, is his reasons for becoming becoming an informant. He said various stories on it. He's saying his grandmother told him to from her grave or whatever, and so he's given multiple stories for why he did what he did, and so it's hard to take him at face value. So yeah, 50% might be right.
Yeah. Okay. Then we'll go. And now this is that second tier that we're talking about. Now we're going to go with Anthony Arillotta. Okay. I dealt with Anthony Arillotta. There's no doubt that Anthony Arillotta was made. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I agree that he was a definitely someone, tough on the street, tough with his hands, probably, tough with a gun too. So I'd say that's true.
And he had, but the fact of the matter, he was a huge rat that ratted on his two guys that he sent to kill somebody. So he was probably about as big as a rat as you could be.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. There's no level on being a rat. If you're a rat, you're a rat.
Right.
But I think Anthony Arillotta's biggest problem was when he came into this genre, he got mixed up with attack channels. And from those attack channels, he was attacking people. So he really hurt himself by doing that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. There's really no need to do that. He was a well enough known name, I would say, at least up in Springfield and up in the Boston area, that there's no need for that. But that's how he came across, or that's what he did, and so it did affect his.
And he ran his own crew. I mean, and he was involved in killing Adolfo Bruno. I mean, who was definitely a big time guy. We can't take that away from him. But coming on here, joining some attack team people, and being quite vicious with his mouth. If you notice anything about the successful people, they don't act like he did. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what, I mean, most of the ones that are successful, they don't get involved in all the drama and attacks. They have their own channel. They've got their own formula that they use, and they don't deviate from it.
And so I would say that real deal, yes, big time embellisher, and not a big time embellisher, mid level, but the attack channels really hurt him. It really did, because it didn't make him look like his own man. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go on from there. And now we're going to come up with, quite possibly, at one time he was the most famous guy in this. Oh my God, my damn dog opened my toilet in the background. Okay. Okay. So he came into this with Gene Borrello, and he started this thing. Got it off the ground, kind of. Michael was here with the church thing. So we're talking about John Alite. And John Alite, most controversial guy. Would you say he's the most controversial guy in the genre?
Yeah, he's definitely the most controversial guy. He did, yeah. He actually started, like you said, pretty early on. And if you didn't know any better, you would think that he, you could take for face value everything he said, because it seems like every Discovery crime show has this guy in it.
He has for himself created an image. He's really pushed hard to get out of these shows, because the shows don't really check into these guys too deeply. And then he smartly, or his author smartly, used a book and put Gotti's rules in it. And a lot of people that bought that book thought it was about the Gottis.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And so you're talking, and then he's on here. He's known to viciously attack people. He's known to viciously make up lies. He's done it to me many times.
Yeah.
And he would say horrible things. What would you say, your opinion? Was he the real deal, like he says he was?
All right. So we know that he did hang out with John Gotti Jr. Even Angels said that on our show before, and so he was around there. I mean, that part's true.
Did he know about the Castellano hit ahead of time, you think?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you think that he used to go to the Raven Night and hang out and have turkey sandwiches with John Gotti Sr.?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I don't think John Gotti Sr. would care for him from what I know about Gotti. So
I would say this about John Alite. Yes, he did things without a doubt, but he's in the same mode as a lot of these guys. He loves to embellish, but what makes him really bad is his vicious attacks on people if they call him out.
yeah, and that was the other thing that a lot of people find. I don't know, concerning is the right word, but it's just ironic. So he's this tough dude that supposedly a tough guy. We know he used baseball bats on people, all types of stuff, and then he decides he's going to go back into his neighborhood and film it. So he's going to film it right there in his neighborhood, and then he has a bunch of bodyguards with him because he's afraid to be there alone. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's just weird.
But we can wish him the best. His daughter passed away.
Oh, I feel awful for that. I mean, no one should have to go through that. So that part I feel bad about.
And he's back with his old Felix, his old host, and it seems like he's trying to put out different product now.
Okay.
And so if he does that, he hasn't been attacking nobody.
Good.
Who knows? Nobody here knows what the death of his daughter did to him. You don't see him around the biggest jerk on here, that Dowd cop. Remember him?
Oh yeah, Michael Dowd. Yeah,
so,
right.
You don't see him around that idiot. But in general, you can't give him a good grade at all, because the fact is, was he the real deal? He was friends with John Gotti. That's John Gotti Jr. That's what he was.
Yeah, he's a drug guy. He also maybe hit a couple of people with baseball bats. I mean, he
probably killed somebody. It's all these guys have all probably killed somebody.
Sure.
Even the ones that we're going to talk about later, except the very last one on this list.
Yeah,
I'm sure he hasn't killed anybody. Okay, so in general, I would say that John Alite, he had the opportunity to be very big in here. People came up and pushed back against him hard. Angel Gotti, Chris Casparosa, they pushed back hard against him, did a lot of damage, and that's pretty much it with John Alite. But listen, I take pride in the fact that he viciously attacked me. He viciously attacked Angel, Casparosa. Anybody that really gets underneath his skin is who he attacked pretty hard.
Right.
But, I don't really look at him as anything favorable at all.
Right.
Okay. So the next guy, this is a guy who claims he's made, but the odds of him being made are against him because, I guess he was made in the back of a cab maybe. There was a war going on, and he's claiming during this war he was made. And he's claiming the guy that made him, it's just, the story's impossible, but the fact of the matter is, on the streets, he was a tough guy, and he did shoot somebody in the face. You can't take that. He did do that. I mean, it's in all the FBI reports and a few other things. But we're talking about Larry Mazza. So what is your feeling on Larry Mazza?
Yeah, I feel that he's another one that embellishes. Part of what he's, I think he really thought he could have this career in Hollywood. He's another one that was part of the documentary circuit, and so he wanted to make himself bigger than he was. His claim to fame was being, I guess, under, I don't know, somehow Greg Scarpa Sr. took a liking to him.
Well, Greg Scarpa Sr.'s wife took a liking to him too. There was like some menage a trois going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a whole weird.
I don't know if any swords were crossed, but we know only Larry knows if any swords were crossed.
Well, and then it's and we know what happened to. He had I believe Gary Scarpa Jr. had a bad blood transfusion, and ended up dying from AIDS. So
he was such a horrible, horrible man.
Yeah, horrible man, and I wouldn't want anyone to die from that. But if someone deserved to die from that, it's him. Scarpa is just a piece of crap.
It makes you try to say, why did he bond up so much with Larry Mazza. I mean,
I don't understand that
because he didn't like anybody. He didn't like himself. So
No.
what was it about Larry Mazza? I mean, so this is what nobody knows that. Larry Mazza knows that. The man in his grave knows that, and maybe the wife. But the fact of the matter is, I do not believe Larry Mazza was made. Do you?
No. I mean, people I've talked to say that he was 100% not made, and there were people that are made that thought he was. They've told me in confidence they realized he's not. So, no way he was made, and I believe he's not really spreading that anymore that he was made. He was doing it for several years, but now you don't see him using that label as much anymore.
Well, the genre is getting bigger now, and you have more people coming in. You got people like Mikey Scars and stuff that would maybe know those things.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it with him. He's not really doing what I thought he was going to do. His show's really not doing what I thought it was going to do. It's not,
he thought he'd do the Hollywood thing because he's been in a few movies and stuff, and so he was really pushing to become this known name in Hollywood. And unfortunately, Hollywood, they kind of like the gangsters, but not when someone shoots someone in the face like he did. So
we don't know what he's doing now, but I think he's doing some type of documentary. Maybe he is, maybe he ain't. All we know is in that business, it could end as quick as it starts.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go to the next guy here. This is going to be the partner and someone that I dealt with for quite a while and someone that I know quite well, and that's Gene Borrello.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now Gene Borrello. If Gene Borrello was not crazy or had some anger issues and stuff, he probably would be very successful on YouTube. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some of his shows where he could be entertaining. He seemed to be able to relate well to people, and I see that he could have potential. He has, I guess, that it factor if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Apply
I'll give you an
himself.
example. When he came back for 3 days one time, and he got 3,000 subs in 3 days.
Yeah.
And there were just people piled on right away because whether you like Gene Borrello or not, he is entertaining. Even though when he's entertaining, he can be very hurtful to people.
Yeah, he really can. Yeah, he's funny too in a lot of ways. He's entertaining, but he's also very hurtful. He's got that dark side to him that a dark side needs,
And I've anything that I've ever put up on Gene Borrello has always been successful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for sure. I can't say otherwise. Just go look at my Gene Borrello stuff. Look at the numbers. Most of it's 10,000 and above because people find him interesting. I mean, he was singing Taylor Swift's song, and I did a short on it. And I think it's at like 20,000 hits.
Yeah.
It was like a 30-second where he's singing along with Taylor Swift. Who would ever thought?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it definitely. He had a decent following, and we should know some. Should know something early next week. What's going to happen with him? How long is he going to be in prison? Maybe, or at least an update on, the violation. The violation of supervised release in 6 months he's been in jail.
He's like Convict Inc. He pushed the probation and the judge too much.
Yeah,
they gave them both every break in the world.
He did,
and they kept doing it and doing it. He was out there literally committing crimes while he was on probation, lying to the probation department, and it all caught up to him. Who knows when he's going to be out? Maybe he'll be out in June. Mm-hmm. Nobody's sure. They're probably not going to let him come back onto YouTube anytime soon. No. Knowing Gene, he just might decide to come on and create his own rules again. I mean, he's pushing 40 and he's still creating his own rules. I don't see why he would change at all.
Yeah, got a good point there.
Yeah, but in general, I believe he embellishes a lot of stories. He did this one where he robbed some guy, and then it turned out then he said it was a guy with the same name. It was a big story. And it's in his book. And it's a lie. It shouldn't be in the book. But there's many things in his book that aren't accurate.
All right.
But Gene Borrello is Gene Borrello. We'll see when he gets out. But he was never made. He did put two guys, Vinny Asaro and Ronnie G, away.
Yeah.
But he was acquaintances to them. He wasn't what he says it was to them. He acts like he hung out at their house. They knew him and they went to him, and every time they wanted something done. But that wasn't the case.
Yeah, he's basically robbing houses and was his thing, right? Maybe some drug pushing.
He was committing strong arm robberies in the neighborhood that he lived. And one thing they try to tell you, don't do.
Yeah, exactly.
The next guy we're going to talk about, I don't even know if we should put him on this list because he's never been a gangster. He knew gangsters. He hung around, he knew some serious guys in the street. We can't take that away from him. But we'll talk about him. This guy hurt himself. He came in here flying in here. I mean, his numbers went up and stuff. He has that New York look. People found him interesting and fascinating, but here's another guy that got caught up with the attack channels. In reality, if he never got caught up with the attack channels, he'd probably be at 100,000 viewers now. I really believe that. And I'm talking about Jimmy Calandra. And what's your opinion on Jimmy Calandra?
Yeah, I mean, he really had an interesting show for when he first started, and then it seemed like at first that when he was going through the Bath Avenue stories, I could tell that it really affected him, and then he didn't have a lot of content, direct content, because most of his time was he was behind bars for part of it, and then his time on the street as part of that group was just maybe 3 years or so, and that's fine. But then he started getting into the attack channel type stuff, and
he's still with them attack channel. He's
still in that. And he didn't need to do that because he had enough.
Yeah. But you know what? I said this a year ago. I said this a year and a half ago. But Jimmy's his own guy, as everybody knows. And sometimes the best thing is not to be your own guy. Maybe to listen and remember that you're trying to run a show. But then he did something. Convict did a lot of damage to him.
Yeah.
He came out. But the thing that really did damage to him is this picture right here. Explain to us about this picture.
Yeah, so he was saying that he went with Pauly G to, I believe, Lewisburg to visit Tommy Patera, and they met together, but then Tommy Patera sent a letter back to Convict Inc. saying that that never happened, and he didn't really know Jimmy. He might have said hi to him a few times or whatever, but he dealt more with Pauly. It was really just Pauly that he dealt with.
It was Mikey Scars that knew these kids,
Yeah.
Out of all of them, it was Mikey Scars that knew these kids, and these kids, Jimmy did run with these kids.
Yeah. I mean, he had the number 2 on his on his tattooed. I mean, a lot of that stuff's true. A lot of it's true, and that's why I say I don't know why. There's no need to embellish this morning. It just didn't happen. I mean, he had someone basically do a screen. What do you call that? Like Photoshop.
Yeah.
There's no need.
It was a guy on here with a show. People that watch this probably don't know him. His name is Gunsmoke, the Don. He thinks he's a gangster, but he's not. And he made this picture for him, and the picture got out. And this was. And then when he got caught, he said that, "Oh, it was just a joke. I wanted to. I did it to piss people off." But no, you did it, and you got caught. That's what happened. And it hurt him. What will he come back?
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to redefine. I know the new beginning, something with a friends. I forget the name of it, but if he just goes back to the original formula, he doesn't need to do all the stuff, and all the drama. He has 30,000 people
Yeah.
sub, so he doesn't need to do all that.
No, he doesn't. But he should just disappear into his show, but he's not gonna. So I don't see anything changing for him. That's just my opinion. And okay, so we're gonna now we're gonna move on to the guys we put up. There was no doubt they were around guys.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna come into a different group. Some of these guys are not informants, but they have to be shown.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, this guy is an informant. Ori Spano is an informant, right?
Who's that?
Ori Spano, did he inform?
Oh, Ori Spano, believe he did. Yep, he did inform. He also was. What his biggest problem is that he claims these relationships. He claims he was friends with Sonny Franzese, and then he said Sonny Franzese put a hit on him, and so he might have known. He did know Sonny, but basically these relationships were not as strong as he said. So he embellished. He's more of an embellisher than anything. He didn't really. He was more of a what I would call like a more of a what do you call it, dealing with the almost like a loan shark gambling type stuff. He
Right.
wasn't.
He was trying to say
wasn't a
that,
hitman.
yeah, he was trying to say that Ray Donovan was based on him, and
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and I doubt that. But you know, but these are the things he says. He's an older man. He definitely knew people.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be too hard on him. He's just an older guy. He says his stuff, and that's that.
Yeah, you know who. Yeah, you know who I fought. You know, maybe we talk about it at the end, but you know, I fought people like Vlad TV for this stuff.
Vlad
They
TV?
will Vlad TV. They will platform all of these guys,
Yeah.
and they don't go in and check their story out before they do this stuff. So he'll interview any of these people, and unlike the guy Patrick Bay David, what I've noticed about him is he'll actually check their background out. But you know, Vlad just will put all these people on, and they're frauds, and including some of the other folks that we'll be talking about later today.
Yes, and we got a couple more, but you know what? I'm going to pull up a picture of somebody that I forgot to pull up, but
Yeah.
I'm going to put up the next picture, and you can just talk about him.
Okay.
I'm grabbing that other picture. Okay, so we're not going to bash Spano too much. We're not going to even grade him. We just put him up there because of, and now we're winding down, and we're going to go to a guy that got exposed so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's back, and he's continuing and saying that everything he said was still true. Makes no sense to me, but he's back doing it. Here's a guy he made every mistake that you could make in this genre, and he came in, and then he said that he doesn't care about selling to the mob genre because they don't have no money. And as we know, that's a bunch of BS. There's a lot of money, a lot of people that, you know, he kind of like cut off his, you know, right arm.
Right, exactly.
It's the mob genre. If you're, you know, he's selling a product, I forgot the name of it, but it's, you know, it has to do with the mob. And then he says that I don't need the mob genre. His business model is totally ass backwards.
Yeah.
You go from the very handsome.
Oh, Gunner. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he supposedly was what he worked with.
I'm pulling a picture. You just tell the story. It's up to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, there was Scott Bernstein did a book on him, and it really hurt Scott's credibility because apparently he didn't do fact checking on it, and it just really surprised me because Scott Bernstein wrote one of the best mafia books ever, The Mafia Prince, and so I just don't understand this guy. He's you know, he's claimed to be this big gangster, I guess, working with in Detroit, and none of this stuff could be substantiated at all. I mean, we're looking at nearly 100% lie on him.
And here's what it comes down to. I did 2 shows on him with Scott Bernstein. We proved that he was not true. He does not want to. We talked to a guy that's on the streets there. and he wants to say that it wasn't really him, but yes, it was really him. And he's been proven to be a fraud.
Yeah, I mean, he is never in any sort of life at all.
Pathological liar, fraud.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other ways that you can really describe it.
Right.
Okay. Now, and that's how we'll close out with Gunner.
Yeah.
And but Scott Bernstein did kind of hang in there too long with him, and it did hurt Scott. But Scott seems like he's doing well now.
Yeah.
Rise of Scott's stature. You ever got involved in that?
Yeah, that really surprised me, especially after the book he did,
Okay.
about the Philly mob.
Now, the next guy that I'm going to show is like a cartoon character. Okay. And, I pulled one last guy that I forgot. I'll pull him before we pull up the biggest fraud on YouTube. I mean, in my genre. But right now, we're going to talk about a cartoon character. Anthony Raimondi.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at him, I mean, everything about him's just this caricature. Just look at the way he dresses. I mean, he would. You have the other photos where he's in the tracksuit. He has to have the big old cigar in his mouth. He's got everything that's got that stereotypical mafia guy.
Oh, he plays the part.
Yeah, he plays the part, and he's done everything. He's a pathological liar. He was part of. He was behind getting someone killed, or the Pope. Yeah, he was going to. He's part of assassinating the Pope in Rome or in the Vatican. He also
sounds like something from The Godfather 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He took Godfather 3 and made his own, and then besides that, he did Stolen Valor. That really bothers me. He said that he was a sniper and killed 120 people.
I think that the worst part of his story is the Stolen Valor thing. As for the mob stuff, I don't really give a shit if he's talking what he says about it. If people want to believe him, they can believe him.
Yeah, the Stolen Valor, because we have a lot of people that support us that were in the military, and and they sacrificed for our country, and then you have some joker like this that will totally fabricate what they did, and it's just there's no excuse for that, and I can't like.
And everybody knows the war that I had with him, and then when I brought on the military guy that talks about the frauds, he said he was a fraud. I brought on a lawyer. Well, I didn't bring him on. I talked to a lawyer from New York, Kubi. He said the same thing, and he told me this. But the fact of the matter is, he is a cartoon character. He's a caricature, like you said.
Yeah, and he has a lot of people believe him, follow him, and I don't know how anyone can believe him. It's so outrageous.
Okay, well, and that's what we're going to do. We're not going to bash him too much. We just said what we had to do. So, okay, now we're coming to another character that I kind of left off here. I shouldn't have left him off. This hairdo here. I don't understand why he did this, but his name is Hootie Russo. Do you know much about him?
I don't know much about him. I mean, I've heard stuff.
Okay. Hootie said that he ran with the Gambinos, that he was a drug dealer from them. He may have been a drug dealer, but he did. He says he didn't inform, but I believe it was his Barker, his brother-in-law. He informed against. He says he didn't. Me and him had a big argument about it. He's been on my show a couple times. He pulls better numbers on my show than when he does his own show. But that was like a year and a half ago. I don't even know what Hootie's doing now. But the fact of the matter is, he was one of those guys. He was Gene's friend, Gene Borrello's friend. And what they did is they would both say, "Oh, he did this." They would cover for each other. I always had that feeling.
Well, that's what Alite did with Sammy Gravano. He said, Sammy Gravano, he paid, I believe, gave some money to Sammy when Sammy got out of prison. And so he said, well, just tell him that you knew me or something. And Sammy said, oh, yeah, I know John Alite, and he's a tough guy. And then later, we find out from Sammy that after they got into a tiff.
Sammy was broke. He said he needed the money.
Right, exactly.
So, that it just goes to show you what level people will go to here to have people say that they were somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a partner, and I'm not going to pull punches. I had a partner who actually he spent quite a bit of time in state prison, like 8 years. He told me originally 16 years on a murder charge. And then on top of that, he spent a lot of time in Brooklyn, a lot of time in Florida. But in the end, he was found out. I mean, he was not telling the truth. And him and I, we are no longer partners. It's been quite a while.
Yeah.
And what it did is I said to myself, I will never get a Danny Trio again. I will get a James Proctor.
Yeah, I just, my thing on that is that you have embellishments and but to me, who would have thought that someone would actually make up that he shot a guy,
that he
killed somebody?
I would never thought it. That's why, listen.
Yeah, I mean, that's unbelievable. There's no way that's like psychologically. Yeah, I mean, that's something has to be wrong with you mentally to
There's
say
something
that.
mentally wrong with most of these people in here.
Yeah, that's true.
Why would someone put a face on and pretend that they were with Patera? Why would Gunner literally turn his whole life story into I ran with the mob and I was the, Gunner's probably a tough guy. He spent a lot of time in prison. There's no doubt he looks like a big, strong guy. Another guy that doesn't have to fabricate. Danny Trio could have told his story. That was an interesting story.
Sure.
He,
yeah, he knew a lot about the mob. As your partner.
He has a Facebook site that has like 40, maybe 30,000 people now, something like that. And but the fact of the matter is, I'd be lying to myself if I didn't put him up here. That's why I put him up.
Right.
If people would say, "Well, Lee, you had him on your show." Yes, I had him on my show, but it taught me a very valuable lesson. Like I checked up on James. He was the most boring guy. I couldn't find nothing. I couldn't even find a jaywalking ticket on this guy. Nothing. Yeah. Either he's the smartest criminal ever, or he's just a good boy.
Yeah.
He behaves.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're gonna have the fun. We're gonna close out here.
Yeah. Can I ask you about two people though that you'll know about? So two people we didn't talk about because they're probably I don't know if we know enough about them, but these guys had famous fathers. So you had Bill Cutolo Jr. and then Andy Ruggiano Jr. Both had famous dads and they have shows. What do we think about them?
Well, on Ruggiano, I don't want to talk about him yet because we're kind of doing a show.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So let's wait until we do our show because why talk about him? Because we're doing a show on him, people. Just so you do know. And that's one of the reasons what we haven't mentioned. And then through that show, you basically understand what we think about that whole situation. And who was the second person?
Cutolo Jr. I know we're going to be doing something on the Colombos, but I didn't know if we were waiting on that.
I've given a lot of. I believe that his father was a very famous guy. I believe that he was around. Bill Cutolo Jr. was around a lot of guys.
Yeah.
I don't believe that Bill Cutolo was the tough guy that he pretends to be. I believe that when his father got killed, he accepted it. He didn't run up to nobody in the street and say, "Oh, I'm going to hurt you." If you go back and look at Bill Cutolo when he started on this like 10 years ago, if you go back and look at some old videos, he comes out and he talks like he's a real tough guy. Now he's like a jolly old guy with a big smile on his face. He doesn't talk that way.
Right.
So I really don't, I don't think he's a bad guy.
Right.
But he did inform. But I don't think personally he's a bad guy.
Right.
But I just think that, his life story's sad. His father got killed one night, and he was looking around for his father, and his father was gone. And the people around him lied to him. They said nobody knew where he was. And then he's sitting, we interviewed him. It's one of our best interviews ever. And we interviewed him over a year and a half. About a year.
Yeah, he had 30 or 40,000 views on that.
Yeah. But the way he describes when he went looking for his father, and then he went back and he was waiting for him in the social club, and some people sitting in that social club knew he was dead. And and they were like trying to say, "Oh, we'll help you look for him," but they knew he was gone.
Yeah.
And that's the mob right there, you know.
Yeah.
And we know, we've heard stories of fathers and brothers, brothers losing brothers. Many of them, we talked about them all the time.
Yeah.
We just recently did a story like that. But you know, actually, it was Mikey Scars, his brother.
Yeah, Mikey Scars' brother. Yeah.
And he had to accept it. You could accept it, get revenge, and die.
Yeah.
Those are the only two choices you have.
Right, and then Bruno and Delicato with Sonny Red. Same thing.
Yeah, he had to accept the fact that his father got killed.
Right.
I mean, that's it.
I was just curious of your thoughts on those two. Yeah, we're doing a show on.
Yeah, well, that's why we're not talking. I don't want to talk about him right now because we have a lot of good stuff on him.
Yep.
But you know, as for Bill Cutolo, I've done so much stuff on him, and people know that. You know, you can go look. We got like 2-3 videos on him.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't. You know, it's hard for me to really put him with a lot of these real bad informants.
Right.
He informed against the guys that murdered his father.
Yeah, and I couldn't blame. I could understand that. Yeah.
A lot of people go, "Oh, he's an informant." It's just like, but we know a lot of people that say, "Oh, he's just an informant," would flip. You know.
Yeah.
After they spent one day in lockup.
Yeah, and I feel bad. I know there's some family stuff with his sister. She's put stuff out, and so it's a little sad, that situation.
And I went at him real hard. Me and Danny went at him real hard.
Really?
So you know, but you know, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
And we'll just leave it there. That's why I really didn't. Okay. So and then we're going to talk about another guy we just did a show of, Bobby Luisi. Okay. Now Bobby Luisi. He got made when he finally went to Philadelphia, and then he went back and made some people, and then he flipped. I think he's in denial because Bobby Luisi will say, "I flipped, but I didn't. But I didn't flip. It doesn't make sense." Did you hear when we interviewed him?
Yeah, there was something about that. What happened was, I believe he was going to flip, and then he didn't. He couldn't come to agreement with the government, but still, I guess somehow it was out that he had cooperated. So then they had to put him in the witness protection thing. So it's a little confusing to me, the whole story.
I asked him during the show whether he had anything to do with his father's death.
All right.
He kind of still left it open, but he admitted during that interview that he has no feelings about his father's death. He doesn't really care about his father's death.
Right.
He was very cold about it. Yeah. But at least he was honest about it.
Yeah.
And you know, people don't want us as a show interviewing informants.
Right.
But you know, I have a partner now, and we discuss things, and that's how we'll do things. Yeah. You'll never see John Alite
no John Alite, no Gravano.
You know, because they're just they're so vile toward the Gaudis, especially toward innocent Gaudis. Yeah. They should never, ever, you know, never, ever. Okay. So this next guy, he was a big cartel dealer, right? He actually set up a drug dealing network to Detroit. He's I mean, this guy's done everything. I mean, he used to tag with his spray can. They had a team. They used to run around. Yeah. And during that spray tagging stuff, he met some guy out of Detroit, and they started this big, you know, drug thing.
Oh, wow.
If you look at his record, there's absolutely no evidence of him being a drug dealer on his record. Nothing, nowhere.
Wow.
Not even close. Huh. The closest thing he got done, I think in college, he got busted with some drugs. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to the biggest fraud on YouTube when it comes to. It was close.
I can't wait. I'd love to know.
It was close. It was like we had to figure this one out. It was Gunner was in first place, and then they were going down the home stretch, and Jeff Crow caught him.
Oh wow!
There he is, people. That's the man. That's the man that would have had the cartel whack you if you messed with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the man that is feared on YouTube. This is a man that when we sleep at night, we sleep with one eye open.
Wow.
We lock our windows. And we worry about
So what is his family's, right?
Yeah, he was with the Hell family, a mob family out of Detroit. I'm surprised he didn't say you're around White Boy Rick. I mean, I'm shocked. But sooner or later, we're going to see something on Netflix about Life and Times of Jeff Crow, alias JC.
Wow.
Okay. But anyway, that's how we wanted to end the show. 1 hour, too. Bam, we did that.
Yep.
Okay, but people, here's what I forgot to do because I'm a dumbass. But once this is done, we'll know that our guy will put this in here. So basically, please sub to this channel if you're not. Like this channel.
Like the video.
Like the video. Sub to the channel. Okay.
Yep.
If you want to donate to the show, you can send it to a Cash App, Lee Cole 3 Podcast, or PayPal, or there's a little heart underneath you can hit. If you don't have it, that's not a problem. This kind of video that we did today was like a fun video. We just wanted to get it out.
Yeah.
And have you guys enjoy it because we deal with these guys all day and we just wanted to do like a report card.
Yep.
So overall, we say this: Michael Franzese, real deal. But won't admit what he is. Then we got Sammy Gravano, real deal. But he embellishes a whole lot to make himself into Superman, the ultimate gangster, movie star.
Yep.
And we got Mikey Scars. Mikey Scars, biggest informant ever. But at the same time, Mikey Scars has come in here and he's tried to, he seems like he hasn't made excuses.
Yeah.
One time when I talked to, me and him had a little argument about it, but it didn't last long.
Yeah.
And I think that he is very important to this genre because he's keeping Sammy Gravano in check. And that's, that's, and Dominic Cicale. That's the top tier I'd consider in here right now. After that, we said how we feel. Do you feel comfortable with that?
I feel 100% comfortable with it. And, it's a lot of fun.
Okay. Well, people, thank you so much. Please sub and like this channel. We appreciate you guys watching, as always. And I hope that you lasted through most of this because I knew that everybody was waiting at the edge of their seat for who was the biggest fraud on YouTube.
Right. Yeah.
But it was close, people. It was real close. Gunner was at the finish line, and all of a sudden, JC flew right by him.
Yeah.
Okay. JC's like, I'm going to get even with those guys. I just hope I have a cartel guy coming to get us.
Right.
Take care,
I'll be watching.
Okay.